and then Nick is going to press the button. And then here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming to This Town is for the Bird seminar this evening, okay? Our first speaker tonight is going to be Barbara Beck. I'm going to let each speaker introduce themselves when they come up. So Barbara's over here, and this is Heidi Shiver. We are so happy that they could come out and talk to the township tonight about their passion. So without further ado, I'm going to let Barbara use her, there you go, and I'm going to get out of here. Thank you very much.
Okay, I guess. I hope, oh God, yes. I was telling Paul that I usually use my outdoor voice, so I'm not used to speaking with a microphone because usually I don't need one. Everyone can hear me at the other side of the road. So I want to thank you all very much for coming out and listening to these presentations. And I'm going to be sharing with you about birds, pollinators, and native plants. And you have, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Paul. The bottom one. Ah, yes. Okay. So, who am I? I mean, who am I to tell you about native plants? I can tell you I do not have a degree in horticulture. I did have a degree in biology and ecology, and I am now retired. I went to the dark side, so I worked in R&D pharma that was my career versus a biology or ecology career, but once I retired, I followed my passion. And during my working years, I also followed my passion and traveled all around the world to see wildlife and animals and birds and all these wonderful creatures. I am a lifetime traveler and an animal lover. If you called me a tree hugger, I would not feel offended. I enjoy travel and photography, writing, scuba diving, beekeeping, and beekeeping has been a lot of fun. Gardening, of course, with native plants. But as I'm going to share with you in a little bit, you don't have to be a native plant snob. You definitely don't. I will tell you a little bit more about what I mean. I've served on boards at Bucks Audubon, Bucks SPCA, and I'm currently on the board of Richland Township Parks and Recreation. And I've been doing native plant gardening for about 12, 13 years now. And I learned by experience. And I'm here to tell you that it's not hard to do, okay? And that is, I'll open with that. So I'm also the Richland Township Bird Town leader, and I'm just having a plug here for Richland Township Bird Town. We do have a Facebook page, and this is, yeah, we do need volunteers, but you're focused in Middletown, so I recognize that. And Heidi will be talking to you about Birdtown. What we're going to cover today, just for context, I want to share with you a little bit about what a sustainable habitat is, because these are some terms you might have heard, but you're not really sure exactly what it means. A lot of people don't really know what native plants mean, so I'm going to share what that means in terms that, you know, that we everyday people can understand. We'll go into creating backyard gardens and habitats and really how it's easy to do and you don't need a lot of land. And we're supporting, and also share with you about supporting birds and pollinators. The two go together. The birds and the bees do go together. So why do I care about birds, bees, and native plants? Well, it means that you probably, if you have a lot of them around, you probably are living in a pretty healthy environment. It does mean that you do have a healthier environment. I found that it does not take a lot to help nature out. Everybody has it in their means to do that. It makes me, most of all, it makes me very happy and calm. When I hear birds singing and bees buzzing on a summer day or a spring day and just close my eyes, I am in another world. and all the cares and the worries kind of just melt away. It is just a wonderful, wonderful feeling to connect that way with nature. And you can do that in your own little garden. And I'm going to tell you about that. So we've all seen pictures like this before of large-scale habitat destruction. You hear about it every day. You read about it every day. But there's also smaller scale habitat destruction. And this is it. They're called housing developments. And, you know, this is the housing development I live in. So we do need places to live, but here you had a perfectly nice habitat that was all mowed down, all destroyed to build houses. Well, we do need places to live. So I'm not against housing developments at all. But one thing housing developments do is they put in a lot of this, lawns. And lawns really are, I would call them deserts. They truly are deserts because they really do not give back anything to nature. It used to be in England that lawns were signs of the wealthy, and really closely shorn grass lawns, as you see, emerged in the 17th century, and they were signs of wealth and status. And that came over with our ancestors over to here. And really, if you like to play bocce ball, golf, croquet, lawns are fine. But if you want to help the environment in any way, try and minimize your lawns, or as much as your homeowners associations will let you do, as I'm finding out. But I'm successful so far. We'll keep trying. So I mentioned to you, we're going to say, what is a sustainable habitat? Well, you could look at it at several levels. So at a macro level, it really means an environment where it's an ecosystem that, you know, produces food, shelter for people and other organisms, but without resource depletion. It's kind of like zero balance. You kind of, what you put in, what you take out, kind of comes back in again. So there's no external waste that's produced. On a backyard level, sustainability, I think, means not doing harm to the environment or depleting your natural resources. So we're going to focus on backyard development and backyards because I want to focus on things that you and me and Heidi as homeowners can do that gives back something. And as I mentioned, it doesn't have to be on a large scale. So 80% of the Earth's original forests have been cleared or destroyed now. So we're at the 80% mark. That is a lot of forest that's gone. You just look at the Amazon and the destruction that's going on there. There is a lot of destruction still going on. So, but sustainable habitats are important because creating sustainable habitats helps to restore the damage that we have wrought, essentially, on the environment. On a backyard level, in your own home, I found that it is in the reach of everyone and every community or homeowners association or municipality that there are things that they can do. Converting sections of our lawn over to habitat creation will help. It doesn't have to be the whole lawn. If you still want to have part lawn, that's fine. Replacing, supplementing current plantings that you might have with native plantings. So you go out and you say, oh, I got an area in here that could use something. Instead of putting a rhododendron there or putting, well, rhododendrons aren't native, some of them. Oops. Instead of putting like a Japanese maple tree there, consider putting something that is more local to the environment. Reintroducing those plants that feed our pollinators and birds. You might have heard the term these days, rewilding. That's what they're talking about. They're talking about bringing back things that were here a while ago that have been taken away. So a few words about native plants. So we talked a little about a sustainable habitat. What are native plants? A lot of people don't know. Well, native plants are really well, plants and trees and shrubs that have been around in a given area for essentially millennia. And those that are indigenous to a given area in geologic time. This includes plants that have developed or occurred naturally. And they are an essential link in the food web because not only have the plants evolved in a given area, but the insects then evolved with those plants. The insects then brought in birds that are common to an area. And so on, it goes so on and so on. There's a web and there's linkages. They all connect. So native plants, you can think of, those are the plants that used to be here and are still around in some areas, but are very used to this environment. Let's put climate change aside for a moment, but these native plants have grown up in the environment, are used to it, and they're very robust and healthy in their given environment. What happens is with native plants, a lot of insects, because they co-evolved, a lot of insects depend solely on specific plants in order to breed, in order to lay eggs or have more. Probably the best example is the monarch butterfly. Many species of insects rely, I said, on specific plants. And why is the monarch butterfly an example? Well, if you do not have milkweed, you do not have monarch butterflies. It's as simple as that. They require milkweed in order, they eat it, they lay their eggs on it, and 6 months out of the year, they have a very complex life cycle. Four generations, 4 or 5 generations of monarch butterflies, but they all require milkweed. The good news is there are 140 species of known milkweed, and 4 of them, 11 of them are common to the state of Pennsylvania. So we do have a lot of native milkweed available, and they're not so ugly, I don't think. You have your beautiful, on the top of the upper right, you have your common milkweed. You see that out a lot in fields, and they, I find that monarchs tend to like those the best, but then to the left, a lot of gardeners use the orange one, which is also called butterfly weed. You notice a lot of the native plants have the word weed in it, but I'm going to show you that there are ways that you can make it look, make your property look like it is not just a lot of unruly weeds, that it looks actually lovely. The bottom left is swamp milkweed. But monarchs need food, nectar, and places to lay their eggs from March to September, and the milkweed does that. And the milkweed is, as I said, we have 11 species of native plants that are milkweed. So why are they important to include in your gardens? Well, can you see the difference between the non-natives on the left side and the natives on the right? Notice the root systems. They're a little bit different, aren't they? The root systems of native plants are very deep. Very good to have. It helps with erosion control. Native plants tend, because they've grown up here and are used to this area, they tend to be healthier, stronger, and require less maintenance than non-native plants. Native plants help the environment. They are low maintenance, and they can add splendor to your landscape. So what do I mean they can add splendor? Well, this slide should have been one step back. Anyway, this is an example of pollinator gardens that are grown specifically for monarch butterflies. They'll attract all kinds of butterflies, but you might have seen these signs around monarch way stations. A lot of places, a lot of individual homeowners do it and communities do it. These are different types of pollinator gardens that you can grow. These are all native plants. And I think they look kind of pretty, actually. I don't think they look bad at all. But when I was talking about garden splendor, oh, darn it, nope, that's the slide after that. You see, I'm all out of sequence right now. I wanted to give you a few fun facts about native plants. And that's what's coming next, the fun facts. And then the beautifying your gardens is going to come. So the fun facts. Did you know that black-capped chickadees need 6,000 to 9,000 caterpillars to raise one brood? One brood of chicks, 6,000 to 9,000. You don't have native plants around, there are not going to be many caterpillars because caterpillars really don't go on non-native plants, okay? So goldfinches really love seeds from purple coneflowers. That's your echinacea, and you'll see them sitting on top of them, picking them off, especially as it becomes fall. The scarlet tanager, which is that beautiful red bird, needs 500 contiguous acres of habitat to nest successfully. Contiguous means they are touching one another. So you can imagine if you are in a development and you have a patch, a pollinator garden or something that raises or that a lot of insects are attracted to, and your neighbor has a little patch and another neighbor has a patch, you're almost creating a corridor, which could be considered contiguous. So it helps if everybody does a little something. So what can be done individually or as a group or as a community? Planting natives and planting more natives. So I have a list here, and I don't know if the slides will be available, but I have a list here of native plants that both support birds and pollinators. A lot of plants you will find, if it takes care of one, it takes care of another. So a lot of them appeal to both birds and pollinators. It's very rare that you'll have a native plant that really just, okay, it's just for one, it's just for pollinators. So New England aster, some will sound familiar, some won't. Bee balm, also known as monarda, and I'll show you some pictures of them. Goldenrod. Goldenrod is not the sneeze-inducing plant, that's ragweed, but a lot of people get them confused. Black-eyed Susans, milkweed, Joe Pye weed. See, there's the weeds again, but they're pretty weeds, I have to tell you. Blazing star, blanket flower, mountain mint, coneflower, salvia. So most support birds by providing seeds in the fall, and they support pollinators when they're blooming. So they serve purposes during several times of the year. Now, these are a number of native plants and shrubs that I've grown very successfully, and I think they look kind of pretty. They're not weedy looking at all, really. They can get a little, you have to still maintain native gardens. It's not like you can just let them go unless you want a native meadow. Wild bergamot, giant hyssop is a wonderful plant. If you crush those flowers, it smells like licorice. It's really, if you like licorice, very pretty. Coneflowers. The coneflower on the upper right is the purple echinacea. That's your native coneflower, but you can get cultivars. And cultivars of a native plant are really just genetically modified. It's still the basic native plant, but it has been modified to enhance a specific characteristic. It might be color, it might be size. But you'll see there are a lot of coneflowers. They come in amazing varieties these days. Black-eyed Susans you see everywhere. New England asters. Oh my gosh, the pollinators love it, and so do the birds in the fall when the seeds. Viburnum, if you only have one shrub that you want to plant, one native shrub, winterberry or viburnum is a great choice. Beautyberry also is a lovely plant. It's not actually native to this area. It is native a little further south, I believe. Now, there's nothing, absolutely, don't let anyone tell you, there's nothing wrong with mixing annuals or non-natives in your beds to sustain colors, because native plants tend to be very seasonal. They will be in the spring, or they'll have a couple months in the summer or in the fall. So if you want to have color throughout your season, you'd want to supplement that with annual plants or other things that are non-native. You don't have to be a native plant snob. Absolutely, plant natives, help the environment. But if you want to enhance your garden and you want to put in petunias or whatever to give it more color, by all means do that. You know, it makes the garden actually a little more interesting. And pollinators still do love some of these things. It's just they don't get the same nutritional value out of plants like that than they do from their native plants. If you're a vegetable grower, boy, oh boy, oh boy, you're going to really want to plant natives if you are a vegetable grower, because they will attract the pollinators, and the pollinators are going to go to your vegetables and pollinate them. And you probably, if you have native plants around, you probably will have a very abundant season for your vegetables. Some examples of native pollinators that support gardening are the ones I have here. They were also on the previous slide: Monarda, which is bee balm, echinacea, and giant hyssop. But consider that. And if you have a vegetable garden, you don't have to, you could, oh, well, let me show you. It's on the next slide, for gosh sakes. There are many different ways that you can incorporate natives. So these are all different designs of vegetable gardens that have pollinator plants with them. So right here, for example, you can see it's just a container of pollinator plants next to the vegetable patch, right? Or you could put them in lines, in rows. You could have a row of vegetables, a row of pollinators, and so forth. So it's only limited by your imagination. If you have native plants planted somewhere close to your vegetable beds, I think you're going to see quite an abundance of vegetable output. Then for perennials, remember I said you don't need a lot of space. All you need is a container. You could do perennials in a beautiful container. If all you have is a balcony or a patio and you don't have the space, do that. Hey, if you have 5 acres and a lot of money and you want to put in a native meadow, by all means, go for it. Everybody will love that, right? But you don't need it. You just need a small space. Look at this little garden here, this small backyard here. Does it have grass? Yeah, but look at all around the perimeter. So there's lots of things you can do. Now I'm going to show you something that I'm particularly proud of. This is a development. This is my house. I moved into this development 2 years ago. There was nothing but grass here. Now look at it. These are all native plants. Asters along the side. This is along my driveway. These are all native plants that also have good salt tolerance, and this winter was good, right, because of the snow, and that are very robust. Here is your goldenrod around the balcony. So I have goldenrod here. I have clethra around here. These are all native plants around the deck. And this is my weedy pollinator garden in the middle of the yard. So you see that you can actually landscape your property to look more like your traditional landscaping, but they are native plants. These are all natives or cultivars of natives. I used a lot of cultivars because the Homeowners Association is cognizant of having things that are too big. So I got dwarfs. I tended to get dwarf winterberries and dwarf different types of shrubs so that they don't get massively big. But they are available, and there are more and more retailers selling native plants these days. Around here, I'm not sure in this area, but there's a ton of them. Gino's is one that might be relatively close by. But if you look online, you will find them. There are also tons of garden plans. Say you're clueless. I don't know how to put a garden plan together. Well, just ask Mr. Google. Now that you have AI, ask AI to design you a garden. If you have, you can put in the dimensions and what kind of plants you like and say, design me a garden with this XYZ plants, and see what it comes up with. But there are also a lot of garden plans online. You also have a lot of recognition programs, which is really nice. If you meet certain criteria, like here's your Monarch Way Station, remember I mentioned that. Basically, all of these different recognition programs involve meeting certain criteria, and if you meet the criteria and you make a contribution, each one's a little bit different, like $25, $35, they will send you a sign that you can post in your yard that says you are a Monarch Way Station or you are a certified wildlife habitat. Which is really cool, because if you put signs up, what signs do is they stimulate conversation. People see a sign and they say, well, what's that about? And then you can tell, well, that means such and such. Oh, really? Maybe I'll check into that. So it's a good way to kind of get the ball rolling. There are a lot of recognition programs around. Oh. Okay. So in order to support like birds and pollinators, there are a few other things that you can do to supplement and to help them. For food, their requirements, like birds have 4 basic requirements: food, water, shelter, nesting. If you can provide those things, as a matter of fact, I'm going to a school next month, and we're going to walk around their property, and the kids, they're going to have these 4 criteria: food, water, nesting, and shelter. And they're going to go around the property and decide what they want and where they want to put it. So they're going to come up with the ideas, which is a great little program for them to do. But supplementing food for birds or pollinators is, for birds primarily, is great. And it doesn't, birds won't end up relying on the food you provide. They kind of use it as a supplement. So I kind of feed my birds now year-round. I don't feed as much in the summer, but I'll still, especially with the bluebirds around, I have to have the mealworms out because it's easy for them. I'm trying to make their life a little easier. So food, water, and you can have different types of water features. If you want something for pollinators, use a very shallow dish with stones that they can sit on, kind of like this or this, so they don't drown. Because bees and butterflies, sometimes they're not all that smart, and they need they need those little rocks and places to support, and they will use that. You need to have that, otherwise they might drown. For birds, it's a little bit different. But even a drip faucet will work. Shelter, there's insect houses, roost boxes, discarded Christmas trees. For shelter, shrubs. If you want to put something in your yard, put in shrubs. My God, hollies, any kind of juniper, they would really, really love that. And there are a ton of resources out there for you. Audubon, Birdtown, PA, which Heidi will talk to you about, National Wildlife Federation. If you want to attract specific types of birds, or if you like specific plants, go onto Audubon, the Audubon website, and put in your zip code, and it will tell you all the native plants that will thrive in that zip code area. And it'll also tell you the birds that it's likely to attract. So if there are certain birds that you want to attract, you can kind of put in the birds and get the plants. You can do it a couple different ways. But there's so much resources out there. And then there are always people like myself or Heidi or Birdtown that you could ask if you need help or you want to know something more. So my vision really is that every single property should give something back, even if it's only a container, just a little something back to nature. So I want to thank you. Thank you very much. And I'll open it. Does anyone have any questions for me? You want to do it at the very end? Okay, we'll do it at the very end then. Okay, let me advance this now for you.
Thank you, Barbara. To answer your earlier question, the PowerPoints that they have will be available on our website. So if you registered for tonight's class, I'll send you the link when we put it up, okay?
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Heidi Shiver. I'm from Birdtown, Pennsylvania. I'm the president. I'm also at Doylestown Township. I'm on the Environmental Advisory Council there and also the Birdtown leader there. Also a Master Gardener, Penn State Master Gardener. It's so nice for all of you to be here tonight. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here, and hopefully we're sharing some interesting information for you. I'm going to be focusing and telling you about the program and how the program works and what we offer a community to becoming a bird town. So I always like to start with our mission. So Birdtown, Pennsylvania works in partnership with local municipalities like yourselves and like-minded organizations such as Audubon chapters to promote community-based conservation actions to create a healthier, more sustainable environment for birds, wildlife, and people. No worries. Birdtown has been actively engaged with municipalities in the state for over 12 years, and we have now 50 programs across 9 counties. Woohoo! We're owned by Pennsylvania Audubon Council, which supports the Audubon chapters throughout the state. And we're also building partnerships with various conservation groups, including We Conserve PA, which runs the Environmental Advisory Council for the state, Audubon chapters, and also Bird City Network. Bird City Network is a international program that we're a part of as well. And that's basically having bird cities or bird towns in different states throughout the country, and it's a lot of fun to work with them. These are all the different 50 bird towns in the different 9 counties. Most of them right now are in the southeast part of PA, but we're growing very quickly. We're growing into the Harrisburg area and the Pittsburgh area, so we're very excited about that. So I'm going to probably be a little overlap with Barbara, but why focus on birds? Why are we focusing on birds? Because birds keep our ecosystems running smoothly. Birds eat anywhere from 400 to 500 tons of insects. Birds like crows and vultures scavenge carcasses, reducing diseases such as rabies, distemper, and plague. Birds disperse seeds and provide pollination services. And birds like our hawks and owls, they help keep the mice and rat populations down and in check. They also bring us joy and beauty. I can't imagine my life without birds, can you? Birds help us know if the environment is healthy. They're sensitive to toxins and pollutants and can serve as an early warning system for us. And they're everywhere. There's over 45 million bird watchers in the US watching birds. The birds are watching us too. And they're also spending over $41 billion. But birds really need our help. According to the breeding bird surveys, populations declines have been anywhere from 30 to 77% since 1970, and the numbers are still falling. So this is what it looks like at the feeder. 1 in 4 birds have been gone since 1970. Even our local birds, like our robins, the birds that we normally see at our feeders, those are disappearing as well. I want to give you some more examples here too. So our grassland birds, they're one of the birds that species that have been really declining because they really need large habitats. Just like Barbara had mentioned about the scarlet tanager, grassland birds like our meadowlark here also need quite a bit of acreage to do nesting. So their populations are down by 53%. I also included migratory birds because it's getting to be migration time, right? And so here's our Baltimore oriole. They're getting hit both not only here, but also down south where they're migrating to because of loss of habitat. So their populations are down by 28%. So what is causing these threats to birds? Barbara had mentioned loss of habitat. That is our number one. There's 40 million acres of lawns in the US with 2 million here in PA. And we now understand a little bit more about why lawns are not the best thing for our birds. Cats, 2.4 billion birds are killed a year by cats. Window collisions. It says 1 billion birds die per year, but actually the number is higher as the research is coming out. Pesticides, climate change. Climate change causes a migration to be out of sync with the food sources as the birds come back. Invasive species are replacing native plantings that are needed for food, shelter, and nesting. And finally, plastics. We've all heard about microplastics. It's in everything. It's in our food, our water, and it's also obviously affecting birds and wildlife as well. So this is what we're doing to address these issues. This is what Birdtown's about. It's about engagement, education, encouragement, support, inspiration, and promoting awareness. Oops. So these are the different things that we can do as a bird town. Holding native plant pop-up gardens or sales or swaps. installing demonstration native plant, pollinator, and rain gardens, supporting and running citizen science programs such as the Great Backyard Bird Count, educating about invasive plants such as multiflora rose, and running workshops about how to remove them and then having folks do it, reducing bird window strikes and pesticide use, and educating about stormwater management with rain barrel workshops and native plant giveaways. These are just examples of the many things one can do as a bird town. What we provide for a municipality is a statewide structured program, concrete resources and achievable actions, a framework for community networking, both with bird towns and other conservation groups that includes avenues of communication, events, volunteer opportunities, citizen science projects, and more. We also provide training and workshops for our bird town leaders. And also, working together, we have more opportunities and success in obtaining funding. So Barbara had mentioned our bird town website. Here's our site. We created this as a landing page both for our leaders as well as for our community members. It has a great, rich array of resources. It talks about all the different threats that birds face and gives you resources to provide information for you for those issues. It gives a list of our conservation partners and our bird town programs. And then we have a special back page just for our bird town leaders that provides even more resources for them. Barbara also mentioned the recognition programs. Actually, on our site, we list all the different programs we think are really worthwhile, considering. Excuse me, such as the Audubon Plants for Birds, or the Monarch Watch, and the Monarch Way Stations, like Barbara mentioned. There's a whole bunch of more, all varying in different needs or purposes of why you would do those different programs. Some are a little bit easier, some are a little bit more challenging. Also on our website, we have a whole section on citizen science programs, such as Project Feeder Watch, or eBird, or the Great Backyard Bird Count, which we just had in February. Also on our website, we have articles to be shared broadly. So if you become a bird town, we really encourage our bird town leaders and our municipalities to use those different articles that we've written. These are some examples of some of the articles that have been written. Importance of birds as insect predators, or I found a baby bird, now what? Planning for hummingbirds, or how do you protect birds from cats? Oops. This is an example of our workshop series. So we have 7 workshops this year. We just had one on saving birds through coffee, banding, and land conservation. This is really interesting about shade-grown coffee. Most coffee is grown in the sun, so that's why they're destroying so much habitat down south. But this program now through Smithsonian is really encouraging coffee to be grown in shade to create a better sustainable habitat for birds down south. Our next one is coming up. It's protecting birds from pesticides. So these are our Bird Town Leader Workshop series. This is a way to educate our leaders so they can get that information and then spread that information out into the community. This is how we communicate and network between our Bird Town leaders. We have a Bird Town flyer. This is a bi-monthly e-newsletter for our Bird Town leaders to share about what's going on in the program, who are the new bird towns, what are workshops that are coming up, and hopefully some inspiring articles for them as well. Bird Beat is our community e-newsletter. This is a quarterly newsletter that is to inspire and inform residents about actions they can be taking on a seasonal level or seasonal time. And then finally, we have our Bird Town Forum. This is our private Facebook page. We have about 200 members now, and it's growing. This is a place where leaders can share about upcoming events and also, again, inspiring materials. We also have regional networking. So we have Bird Town Clutches. So these are the 4 that we have right now, and this is a chance for our Bird Town leaders to come together in person and talk about the issues that they're working on and what they can be doing on a regional level. We just had a great one, excuse me, on Saturday. These are some examples of bird towns in action. So as you can see on the left, this is a place, this is for like a native plant sale. I just put like a little bird there. This is a cedar waxwing, so if you were to buy a winterberry, you're more likely to get a little cedar waxwing in your yard. Excuse me. We also do tabling events. We're doing different bird walks, also engaging students, and also at the very bottom is a tree giveaway. I just want to give you one example. I think I'm good. This is an example of one of our newest bird towns. This is Whitehall Township up in Lehigh County. This is some of the things that they've just been doing the last few months. They put an educational session for a camp Whitehall during the summer. They've been doing some rehabilitation of a bird watching area with their Eagle Scouts. And they've also been doing community education by writing a number of articles for the newsletters. and also working with teachers as well at the local high school. And they did a habitat creation by taking the Monarch Pledge, and they planted over 375 plants with a grant that they received for that. And also they created a butterfly garden. So this just gives you some ideas of what a fledgling early Birdtown program can do. These are our 6 strategy areas. We have municipal actions, school district actions, community engagement, habitat enhancement, collaborations, and advocacy. So we're encouraging bird towns to do things in all these different areas, not just doing bird walks, but maybe really addressing in all the different parts of our communities, in our municipalities, in our school districts, in our community at large. We also have a 4-tiered program. This is a certification level requirement. So all bird towns come in at the green level, and then we hope within the first year that they'll move to the next level or beyond. We're there to help them move the whole way. So for bronze, you would complete 1 goal in 4 of the 6 strategies. Silver is completing 2 goals in 5 of the 6 strategies. And then finally, gold is completing 3 goals in all 6 strategies. This is a way to encourage bird towns to do as much as they can as it makes sense. And this gives you a little bit more about that. That, we understand that all bird towns and communities vary by financial and human capital. The tiered structure allows communities to start small and work their way up to superstar. We had Swarthmore Borough, for example. They came in at green and they went straight to gold. So it just depends. It depends on how much energy there is, how many volunteers there are, and how much funding there is. New bird town programs begin with the green level with minimal requirements, and then bronze, silver, and gold levels have increasing expectations, like I mentioned. And then finally, bird towns work at their own pace with no time restrictions. And again, we're here for you to help you find your way. This is the application process. So basically setting a meeting to review the process and go over the municipal application toolkit, form a bird town committee, pass a municipal resolution, complete the application, and then submit it for review by the outreach committee. And again, I'll be working with you the whole way through. These are some of the things that you get as a bird town. You get a certification and presentation to your board. You get beautiful street signs, 2 of those for free, some window clings, access to all our different communications, our different newsletters, our workshops, listing on our website, our special back page access, and network contact lists, and so on. So again, thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you for listening to Barbara's presentation and my own. And we're here for questions. Any questions for us? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I will point out that in the back here, one of our Board of Supervisors in Middletown Township, Anna Payne, was a big proponent of being a bird town. So she was pushing both through the township manager and the Park and Rec Department to do this. At the same time, our EAC was looking for guest speakers, so you could see how this was aligning. So it's like, okay, there's a lot of initiative behind this. So it's just working out perfect that they come here, and then we become a bird town and go through the process and everything else like that. So I want to thank Anna for giving us the first shove down the road. So, does anybody have any questions about either scenario? Everybody, thank you.
I have 5 feeders in my yard and 5 bird houses and some bird baths. But the only thing I'm attracting is 50 sparrows.
Oh,
I have 3 or 4 pairs of doves, 1 pair of cardinals. How do I attract different birds?
Well, I think like Barbara was saying is planting native plants. I'm not sure what your habitat is in your yard, but the more native plants you put in your yard, the more you're going to attract different insects as well as birds. I've seen that in my own yard. The more native plants I've been putting in, the more diversity that I see in the species that are coming to my yard. So really encouraging, just provide support for them. And then also look at the food that you're feeding them, making sure it's varied food. They really like sunflowers, not too much millet, high quality bird food, and suet. And Barbara, with suet too, you want to make sure you're not offering suet during the breeding season because there's actually oil in the suet that can get into the nest and cause some issues for the baby birds. So I don't usually offer suet from like May until August. So I hope that helps. So native plants. Anything else?
Plants. I was going to say, like berry bushes, you will get lots of different birds with berry bushes, the cedar waxwings. Oh, geez. Yeah, lots. Viburnums, winterberries, If you look on the Audubon plant database under shrubs, it will have a whole bunch of berry-bearing shrubs that birds really like. Yeah, but diversity, that's the key.
I have a question about bird baths. So we have a bird bath in our yard. We cannot get a bird to take a bath in that bath to save our life. We've tried it. We've heard move it to shade, have it out in the sun. Other than me getting in there to show them how it's done, any suggestions?
Yes, moving water. Do you know those little solar, you can get them for like $10, less than that, and they're solar driven and they create little fountains. Birds love moving water. That's something that I found. I tried that last year as well because I noticed not many birds were coming. I put those in and they're coming now. I also put some rocks in there that they can stand on if they want to go into the bath, because sometimes they're shy about not knowing the depth, but that also can help.
I would mention, also just make sure that it has like some protection too. Like there's usually like some kind of shrubbery around it so that they have some protection from hawks just coming in and getting them when they're bathing, because they're a little vulnerable during that time. So some shrubs around your bird bath would be helpful.
Hi, just to talk about that, I have a heated bird bath. I know it wasn't very expensive. I've had it probably for about 8-10 years now. So the birds come all winter long because and I do clean it out every day. It's just, I just love seeing the birds and they're in there all the time. I also have it kind of tilted so that the smaller birds sit on the edge of it. It's plastic, and they can get in there without falling in, but the robins are in there all the time, splashing around. So.
Well, this lady raises a very important point, that birds need water year-round. So a lot of people pull bird baths in when it gets cold, but if you can invest in a heated bird bath, they will come there all winter long to drink. I haven't really seen them bathe so much, but definitely to drink in the colder months. And also, if you have a bird bath, be sure to clean it at least once a week. Give it a good scrub, because algae tends to build up, bird droppings build up in there, so you want to keep it clean. Yeah.
So, thank you. So last year now I'm going to lose my train of thought. Did a pollinator garden in the back, and then got towards the fall infested with aphids. So I ended up squishing them, but I feel like I start off great, and then it fizzles out at the end, and then I get infested. So I wasn't sure.
I couldn't really hear you very well.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
I did a pollinator garden
Yes.
in the backyard, and I'm going to totally forget the name of what attracts butterflies. That's the weed. Milkweed, thank you.
Milkweed.
I got it from Churchville Nature Center, so it was grown from seed and it wasn't sprayed. And I got aphids at the end of the year, and it seems to be cyclical for me. So, yeah, I didn't have any luck with that, and I didn't see any butterflies.
That does happen sometimes. There's no guarantee necessarily if you plant milkweed that you're going to get them. I think sometimes it takes a while for the critters around to understand that there's been a change in the environment. I've noticed that too, because the first year that I had the pollinator garden, I had milkweed. I had the butterfly weed, the orange one in there, and some common milkweed. I did get some monarchs later in the season, but it was a little sparse in there in the beginning. And then again,
So aphids, yeah, I mean, yeah, they are common. It's okay. It's the end of the season. The plant's going to die back anyway. But also, I would encourage you to plant other native plants around it too to attract predator insects to feed upon the aphids. Squishing them is a good way. A water, like a soapy water bath is good too. But if it's at the end of the season, they're going to die back anyway. But thank you for planting them. Good job.
yeah, thank you.
Do Do the aphids harm the monarch butterflies if they're on the milkweed? So it's really okay to have them on there? Okay.
Yeah, that's not a problem at all. No. It's food for the birds. I mean, if you have a good, established native plant garden and attracting different insects, predator insects as well as birds, they're going to take care of all these different problems for the most part. It's because things are out of balance is the reason why we have problems with insects. And so that's why, Barbara was saying it's so important to plant native plants and in your vegetable gardens because it helps reduce the pests there as well. Did you want to add something?
Yeah, the only thing, once your garden is established and as it grows season to season, you'll see more diversity. It changes. So it won't be just because you didn't see butterflies this year or you saw aphids, and other things will eat aphids too. So it all kind of comes out in the wash. It all works out eventually. Yep.
Great questions. Any other questions? You guys have been a great audience tonight. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you guys coming out.
Thank you very much, Barbara and Heidi. Thank you. Let's hear it for them.
Thanks, you guys. Thank you very much.
So, folks, before I send you on your way, one more time, there's a QR code on the back door. Take a screenshot. Our Big Earth Day event is Saturday, April 27th. And then if you Google that, or if you take a screenshot, there's a community garden, community trash pickup day. There's a tree planting, and there's a garden cleanup day, all in the month of April. So our EAC members are fabulously busy in the month of April. So if you would like to sign up, love to have you out there. Okay, thank you so much. Be safe. Have a great ride home.